Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at two 18-year-old whiskeys from the Springbank Distillery from 2021. The Springbank 18 and the Longrow 18. We have those represented here in front of us the same way they're in front of you. 18, Springbank, and then Longrow here and here. We recently did our review of the 23, and then we had this one backed up not too long ago, and we kind of wanted to bring you guys a comparison of the same year, Springbank 18s. So if you guys are lucky enough to see both of these in your market or wherever it's your whiskey, and you have the choice which one we would prefer. Obviously, Dustin and I are very big fans of this distillery, so we would be ones to ask. Dustin?
They're getting so expensive now, Mike, that it really is becoming, for even people like us who, we buy quite a bit of whiskey. Mm-hmm. You got to really make a decision which one you want to buy, and if you're not in a market where you can get them, like I can't get Longrow 18s usually, I got to pay a premium if I really want to get one. So it's a challenge now. Like, do I do it or not?
All right, Justin. Both 46% ABV, non-chill filtered, non-colored.
Basically the same color this year.
Yeah, maybe the Springbank is slightly darker, but pretty close. And just to kick around the maturations, this one, Dustin, if you can remind the folks on this 21.
It's
30, 60.
It's 30 bourbon, 60 sherry, 10 Chardonnay.
And this 21, I think it was 50-50? 60-40?
It's slightly higher sherry, I think, but it's sherry bourbon. There's no third cask maturation in the 21. I'd have to go look it up. I want to say it's 65-35 or 60-40, but
this one's mine, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's 60-40, 65-35, something like that.
It's again slightly biased. Now, if you remember, Mike, we were huge fans of the sherry cask used here. Mm-hmm. This one is more about the white wine kind of sneaking its way in despite being 10%.
Yeah, I know you were a big fan of it, a little bit higher on it than I was. Let's see what we think compared to other whiskeys, and after we've had a chance to try a few other things to come back to this one. All right, Springbank 18. I always love this 21. I'm glad I bought two of them. It's such a good sherried one.
I bought 5.
This 2021 Springbank 18 is like what a Springbank 18. You get the vinegar chips, you get the sugar cookies, but it's slightly over sherried comparatively.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I'd like to turn up in the Springbank 18, it'd be the sherry note, and this does that exactly. What a beautiful whiskey.
Coming off of we've kind of been having like a Springbank day here over at Mike's, and one thing I'm really
tortured.
Yeah, I know it's a rough day. One thing I'm picking up on this one, and I think it's because of kind of really digging into different vintages and different notes, is I'm getting almost like a Play-Doh note today, like kind of coming through like a plasticine, a little bit of Play-Doh note. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just an interesting kind of like earthy, kind of wet element that these Springbank, sherry casks did on this one.
A little bit of that wet wood and what it does, as you always mention to the Springbank 18s. Yeah, anyway, beautiful smelling nose. I mean, this nose is a 90-91.
Classic Springbank.
18, beautiful whiskey.
Yeah. Maybe on the drier, less sweet side than some maybe.
I like that sure sweetness, but it's a pretty good one, that's for sure.
It's not as sweet, but it's very sherry, if that makes sense. It's like it's sherry flavors without intense sweetness.
I'm with you. Definitely dirtier.
It is that white wine note. It does such an interesting thing, and now I'm guessing these are very refilled sherry casks in the Longrow, which I think Springbank likes with Longrow because they want kind of that profile of like a refilled sherry that kind of seems to enhance the funk of a Longrow. They seem to like that.
Comparing this to the Springbank 18, I can pick up a little bit more of the sherry notes now that I have another sherried whiskey to kind of pair with it. I remember when I did this individually, I kind of was focusing a lot on the ashy notes of it and how dirty and funky it was.
There's almost like a white chocolate more so than like a dark chocolate, whereas the Springbank maybe more of the dark chocolates. But yeah, you're right.
It's coming off better.
I didn't notice chocolate notes when we were doing the review of this initially.
Not at all.
But doing the comparison, you really do pick up. I'm saying white chocolate, but I mean, it might just be like a really subtle cocoa. I don't know. I'm getting a little bit of white.
Yeah, no, it's a nice heavy sweetness from, I would say, the sherry cask on this Longrow 18. But again, that secondary wine cask maturation, it kind of turned a few things white. It was ashy at first. Mm-hmm. I said it's a kind of white ash. Maybe it's kind of turned into white chocolate here.
Well, now I'm starting to understand why maybe you were thinking creme brulee. It's that white chocolate note for me now that's coming through. It's not really vanilla, it's white chocolate.
Yeah, it's easier to pick up next to each other. But really, both, I tell you what, both noses are really hitting me extremely well right now. I mean, I wasn't as high on this one as you when we reviewed it, but I would say both of these are 90, 91 noses. All right, let me go back to Springbank 18. Let's take a little sip.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, my first kind of just on the nose here, as far as comparing the two, comparing and contrasting, I think, You're getting very similar whiskeys. The Springbank is letting the cask do a little more of the talking. The Longrow is using the malt a little bit more. Both are lovely. I'm torn so far.
91.90 on the nose. All right, so 18 exactly what I expected on the 18. It is a sweet sherry kick at the first. Instantly goes into those sugar cookie notes. Gets doughy, gets bready, earthy. Sweetness kind of comes back there on the finish. What are you picking up, Dustin?
It's just rich oak, Mike. That's what I've always loved about this one is that those sherry casks gave it this just really nice, sweet, slightly dirty, but not super dirty, not burnt. Just nice, classic oak note. Love it. Yeah, you get the sherry up front. Again, not a super sweet Springbank. I actually say it's on the low side in terms of sweet level.
It ends quick.
But it's very high in the sherry notes, which is kind of unique. Usually when you get a lot of sherry, you get a lot of sweetness. This one, it's not like it's lacking any sweetness. It's got some sweetness, but it's much more subdued, bringing in this really nice, heavy sherry. I like it. I will say the Springbank malt is a little lost here. It's not gone. I mean, it's still playing there, and it's in the finish, but
It went high in the vinegar chips.
that oak is really doing a nice job there.
Yeah, it's a little more present. This bottle is, I've had this open for a while. It's getting to a nice spot. You can really pick up some of the oakier notes on it at this point.
Yep.
Going to the Longrow.
One thing I do gotta say, just kind of before we jump into Longrow for me, really, really long finish, and it holds up very, very, very well. I'd forgotten how good the finish on this is. Like when we did the 23, for example, I felt like the finish was a little bit. It was long, it was strong, but it dipped a bit. My mouth is just coated with a really nice finish. And I think Springbank 18s generally do a pretty good job on the finish.
That's why I had to have water just kind of cleanse it right there.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take a little sip myself.
All right, so Longrow, you definitely pick up the ashier, dirtier, the peatier notes on this one for sure. And sweetness kind of comes in, kind of tries to counterbalance it at the end, but we can't really get there. It's like a teeter-totter. We have a full-grown person and a child on the other end. It's heavy with the smoke and the earthy, salty notes on it. I mean, it gives you exactly what you expect out of a more heavily peated. I would say it comes off more coastal too than the Springbank version of the 18-year-old. Earthy, dirty, tar, ash.
Yeah, and yet you say that, and I'm going to say this. I haven't gotten water yet in the Longrow. What it does for me, surprisingly, is it does seem and comes off a little bit more delicate than the Springbank, which I'm a little surprised by because that ashy, peaty, smoky thing. But it's a little bit more of a delicate, more subtle whiskey, and I think that's partially the cask maturation. Up front, it's very it comes off much sweeter than the Springbank, but it's a sweet citrus thing. And then like Mike said, it's smoke, it's ash, it's bringing the peat.
I don't get delicate. Almost like an elephant gently picks up, a few peanuts, but
On the arrival, especially when it first hits your palate, to me it's very subtle, gentle, delicate, and then the smoke comes in and builds up by the finish. It's a big, strong, impressive whiskey.
it's bitey. All right, let's go back to the Springbank 18 one more time with water. Give it a quick sniff. Final thoughts?
Not much has changed. A little earthier, a little more of that Play-Doh, plasticine kind of note.
What a beautiful whiskey. I would feel comfortable giving this to any Springbank lover.
Oh yeah.
Any Campbelltown lover, and know they'll be impressed with this.
This would also honestly be a good one to maybe transition somebody who's maybe not into the Campbelltown world. Like, you're not giving them Longrow NAS to get them into Campbelltown. That is the wrong way to go. This is old enough, stately enough.
Great whiskey.
Just awesome.
The old Springbank 18. I think that's why I got in to Springbank. I think it was the Longrow NAS. It was a rough start.
It is the wrong one to start with. Water brought out the saltiness a little bit more.
It did. A little bit of a tart purple.
Yeah. Not liking it as much with water.
I agree. There is more salt to it, but I don't know if that's the Longrow salt linger left over or kind of what it is.
I feel like it's I also feel like it's kind of lost some of that nice oaky notes. Finish water didn't help that one at all.
We've saturated our palate with the peatiness of that thing. Because I don't think it's a salt arrival. I think it's a very smoky, salty arrival.
Well, I've always just felt like this I never felt this particular bottle did well with water, which is why I don't drink it with.
Usually with Springbanks, I don't water them down too much anyway.
No.
They're 46. They're already kind of Towing a fine line.
Very rarely do I find one that I think gets better with water, other than maybe a 12 cast strength.
Yeah, this is about as subtle as sitting on the beach and like a big wave coming and hit you. There's a starfish in it. That's it hits you in the side of the face.
I think the Springbank's really bold. I mean, I'm comparing them, not so much. This isn't subtle compared to like Balvenie 12. Like,
all right, Dustin. As always with these comparisons, what I like to do is say if you're drinking out at the bar one night and someone's picking up the tab all night, you got to pick one to drink all night. Which one you drink?
oh man,
I don't care if it's warm out or hot out. You pick.
enjoying the Longrow with water a lot more than Springbank, but Springbank is the winner here. That's why I'm happy I can buy these every year. It just has better use of casks. It punches a little higher. I feel like from start to finish, it's just a slightly better whiskey. And I think we gave this like a 91, 92.
Agreed.
Like we gushed over this one. This is a great whiskey, but even if you're a Pete head, I think the Springbank still wins, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right with you. I would say the Springbank. It's hard for me to, whether age statement wise or ABV wise or price wise, to anything in the Springbank 18's category at this point, it's hard to pick it over the Springbank 18. I mean, really, for the age statement, for the ABV, for the price, these are $300 now, but Macallan 18's been $300 for.
Well, it's $450 now.
What, Macallan 18?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is this is 3% higher and a way better whiskey, and usually,
absolutely, yeah.
It's a lot of times we'll use superior cask, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, this is really a staple of what a non-cask strength, regular release 18-year-old whiskey should be.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I kind of go back and forth on, because we are talking $300, is you're right. I agree. The Springbank 18. If you've got $300 to spend, maybe a random Compass box comes around that maybe is better.
Hard to spend it better.
But you don't know until you buy it.
Hard to spend.
I can't think of a core release from anybody that for less money is a distinctly better whiskey. Maybe better value. There are better values out there. But in terms of better whiskey, I don't know. The Longrow 18, here's where I'm coming, Mike. I'm thinking if I'm going to get this, why not maybe spend a little bit less money and go and get some of those Port Charlotte wine cask finished? They've got like 5 or 6 different ones. We need to get more of those reviews to you guys.
Right. But I see what you're saying. If you're looking for peated whiskey that's, roughly, in that same price range, I mean, you have options.
You can spend a lot less and get good peat and good unique casking. And because this is such a peat bomb comparatively, like this is there's more nuance to this, whereas this is a little, even though there is a lot of intricacy and delicacy up front, I mean, it's just a big smoky whiskey and at the end of the day for me. And $300, and I paid less than $300 for this, but still $300 for essentially white wine and a little bit of sherry and a whole bunch of smoke. There's a lot of options out there that I think are right there with this.
You're really paying for the age statement with that Longrow, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a big age statement for a Longrow.
True, and those Port Charlottes I'm talking about are not age dated, but they're half the price for us, and I think we've given them equal scores.
You're going to pay for age. You're going to pay for the fact there's not a lot of Longrows, and you're going to pay for the fact there's not a lot of Longrows. It comes from the Springbank distillery, and it's 18 years old. I mean, that's a lot of things going for it. But everything about the whiskey you said, I completely agree with.
Yeah.
You find better there. But again, Springbank 18, that's a pillar. That's really a pillar of our whiskey society, at this point in time. Is, if you want a quality 18-year-old, something that's not chill filtered, not colored, and not 43%.
Yeah, and doesn't come off like a cookie cutter, just generic whiskey.
Yeah, they change it up every year a little bit.
They change it up, and not just that, but Springbank is a meaty, rich, powerful malt, whereas you go and get, a lot of these new distilleries that are coming up, Glencadams or, Glendronach. I mean, they're nice. I like the Allardyce, not as much as I used to, but, I'm just trying to think of what's out there, and there's just nothing that jumps out at me. And I go, oh, well, that's a great whiskey.
No.
Balvenie 15 series.
Yeah, I agree.
Not as good.
This is a great whiskey.
Yeah.
Balvenie 15 single barrel is about the best whiskey you can buy, around $150 though. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean that one's close enough to this whiskey where the price starts to make me think this might be a little overpriced, but it's better.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, it's 3 years different, it's supposedly. And
yeah, well, we know those Balvenies are actually sometimes pushing 20. So.
Right, they could be older, so that could help them out too. bigger distillery. They have more cash sitting around, stuff like
Way
that.
bigger.
I mean, that's what you get. You got to pay sometimes for the small craft pieces.
God, these smell amazing, both of them.
They are good. I always have fun with Springbank reviews. Anyway, those are our thoughts on these particular whiskeys. We're me and Dustin are both going to Springbank if someone's picking it up and buying in the bar. If you guys had a chance to try both these 21s or any versions of these two 18-year-olds, I'd like to know what you guys think. Just until next time, what do you wish the folks?
Happy drinking.
See you then.